Hey, I'm Grant, and welcome to the State of the Channel for February 26th. So I'm just going to get this rant started. You may have noticed that there has been stuff not coming out on the channel as well as it's supposed to. I was supposed to have something come out on Saturday for OSRS. I was supposed to have the podcast come out on Friday. I was supposed to have White Knight coming out every single day. Well, there's a couple small audio and video issues I ran into. One is, you wouldn't know this as a viewer, but I recorded White Knight in 3 sessions because I'm actually done with the game. And originally it was like session 1 is 1 hour, session 2 is 1 hour, and then session 3 was 4 hours long. That's what it took to finally beat the game. And I thought this was something I could do. And technically I did it. But it turns out there's some kind of a weird file size limitation on that. And it's not something I haven't hit before. Like one of my best cameras, which is my phone camera, it turns out there is a hard limit on the file size. You can't have any file bigger than 4 gigabytes. So it has to like split that up because of all this technical stuff. So right now, that's my leading theory. I don't actually know what the problem is. I just know that all the times get reported wrong and they all have the exact same time. So that is what I think is implying, because despite it being a 4 hour and 6 minute file and an audio that's like 4 hours and 3 minutes, somehow they're both reporting 3 hours and 57 minutes exactly. And that's kind of concerning. And also, it wouldn't import into my editor. It's like, okay, that's weird. And I want to bring up this, because this is the first thing that happened, is like, okay, well, I can't keep working on White Knight because now I've used up all of recordings 1 and 2 and I need to get into recording 4. But I have this big issue where, okay, maybe I need to convert it to something else. But since it's a 4 hour long file, any kind of individual test to see if this would fix it takes about 2 hours. And also it's like, well, that's a problem. And I think I might have it in a state where I can keep releasing it again, but we'll have to see. Because one of the other things that kind of came up is my other issue. There's been this big audio glitch that happens with my editor. And specifically, I think I narrowed it down to my camcorder's audio. It doesn't happen all the time, but especially in the podcast or any of these longer recordings, I have these weird like blips and pops that just happen. And I don't know why it's been plaguing, because I can't find any consistency other than I think it comes from that camera. Because sometimes when I export, it doesn't happen. 2 hour long file doesn't happen at all. Other times, 10-minute file, constant. Export the same files, sometimes it's different. And when they are different, they're in different places. And I've been trying to solve this for a long time. And with the podcast coming out, already behind with White Knight, it's like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna try and solve this. Like I need to solve this because this might also fix that other problem. And I still don't have an answer. And it's like Saturday is when I'm actually recording this. And I just had it eventually to the point where it's like, podcast has to go, everything else has to get out. And yeah, I guess I don't have much to say other than like, I think I might finally have 1 or 2 possible solutions, but I can't tell until next podcast. I won't be able to tell until I get White Knight working in already. Basically, I won't be able to tell with gameplays until I make another game. And I just wanted to kind of like talk about that because that's why that happened. And I think this is something where it sucks because it really delays me and it causes a lot of very frustrating issues for me because it's so unresponsive. Like when I was trying to fix the audio issue, it's the same thing where every time I make an attempt, that's about 20 minutes. So you can easily see it's like I have 4 hours to work on it. It's going to take 1 to 2 hours to edit maybe. So you get like 6 attempts. And if those 6 attempts don't work, it's just like, sorry, it just didn't work. But man, I could rant. So it's been extremely frustrating, like letting something go for an hour, converting, cleaning it up, do all this stuff, and then you put in the editor and it's completely out of sync. It's frustrating. But on a lighter note, this is actually something I do consider very valuable because 1, I do want to solve the problem, and I think this has given me a good amount of steps towards that. 2, a lot of doing this makes me better at this. Like there's a lot of things where I didn't know nearly enough about audio sample rates, but now I do because I had to look into that. Or one of the things I used to do for the podcast to make the audio version is I would use VLC media player to strip the audio from the basically the final product. It turns out I have a new setup now where I can take it just straight into Audacity, and it seems like that actually improves the quality. I would still like to be able to do it from my editor directly, which I think I found a way for that too, but I can't test it until digression part 13, essentially. So even though this has been an extremely frustrating week for the whole YouTube thing, it's definitely been valuable. And I think I learned some things to actually make myself better at it. And one of the things that finally forced me to do is to make these little cheat sheets for some of the shows I do, which is just a checklist like, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? Remember, when you do this, do this. Because it's something I generally remember, and it's really rare I have anything that's critically annoying, but I'm trying to use them to take it to the next step of just becoming more efficient. Like one of the things I do with Digression Bar is I do one pass through my multicam editor where I just basically make all the rough cuts. And I always forget that what I really need to do is not worry about the actual timings just yet, just make all the cuts I need to make, because then I can do my second pass and I can just go drag it around. And if I'm good about making the number of cuts right, not necessarily whether they're the right camera, then it's very easy for me to just use some hotkeys to like skip around and just adjust everything. So instead of say watching the whole thing again for like the 8th time is what it was, like an hour-long podcast, watching that podcast 8 times, like that's significant when you don't do this for a job. You can take that hour and down to like say 10, 20 minutes, and that's a huge time to get back. But anyway, I wanted to just like stress that it's been a very, very tough week, but hopefully I've solved this, and hopefully this is I'm going to be able to pay this forward to make something better down the line. I'm hoping to just retroactively release White Knight. So essentially, if I miss 3 days before I got it working, then once I do get it working, here's 3, and then carry on as if it didn't happen. That's what I'm hoping to do. And then just the idea of the fact that like I actually put in a lot of time on the podcast this week, but it's not gonna seem like it because I just had to basically let it go. Like that's the story of the podcast in general, is that of course I'm never gonna have enough time to do all of the things I want to on it. That's just kind of the way it goes. Like for example, I could easily see by the time the video's done, for example, the video version is fully done, I could easily see me having invested 10 to 20 hours depending on the episode and the thumbnail and all that. And then once you're 20 hours in, it's just like the audio version is just going to be a strip. I'm not going to go through it spend another 5 hours cleaning up the entire audio version when it's pretty good already. So that's unfortunately the case unless the podcast sees the giant surge in popularity, or if I all of a sudden is like, man, the audio version is doing so much better than the video, then I might do that, but that's a ways off. So that's my big long rant. Everything else is going to be picking up again. White Knight actually ended up going way longer than I thought. Like when I decided on 20-minute episodes for it, I didn't really know how many it was going to produce, but I'm kind of glad it's going as long as it is, because I was afraid like with 3/4 Home, that is only 3 episodes long. And I thought for sure it's like, oh, I'm going to be stuck trying to do all this editing while also going to play the other game. And I don't think that's the case. So like that is a nice thing, is once I can fix the White Knight issues, in theory, that should give me some leeway, which thankfully I had some PTO to like help burn through some of these issues. But then also I believe on March 12th, I'm going out of town. So I'm also looking to try and get ahead, like not only solve these issues, but get ahead for that week so stuff can keep coming out individually. I think that's something that's very important to me, is to get the channel to something that always is going. It's not this case where, oh, I'm out of town, so I stop producing for a week. It's just that will always go independently. Like, especially if I can do stuff like with the Let's Plays, if they're not time relevant like the podcast is, there's no reason I can't just go put some stuff like in the hopper, like coming down the line. So it's like, oh, I go play this 4 episode long thing, and I just don't release it because I know somewhere in the future I'm going to have a big section of time where I'm not going to be able to do it, and then I can just be like, just start, I'll just flip these over my phone. So that's my week. Very exciting, very, very frustrating, but hopefully worth it. So as always, you can contact me over on Twitter. It's at takingthenumber4grandD, or my email, which is grant@takingthenumber4grandD.com. And I hope to see you guys again next week.